Regis started like clawing at the mirror behind me as soon as I started talking. And I was like, great, thanks.
I didn't hear too much of it. I saw you get distracted a couple times. And you know what's funny is I looked at my clock and saw it was 11:30, and I was like, oh, Regis knows what time it is. But then I was like, oh, wait, the time difference. Regis doesn't know what time it is.
It doesn't matter that it's an hour until she gets fed. She'll start letting us know right now.
Oh, boy.
That's awesome.
Just in case we forget. We never have.
That's why. Yeah. That's why you've never forgotten.
Yes, exactly. Who knows?
She knows.
We would forget if she didn't remind.
That's funny. I was just listening to that SNES Drunk podcast, and he was talking about how his dogs like always start whining like an hour before it's time for them to go out. He's like, you literally know that we never go out before this time, and every single day, like the same song and dance, you just start whining for a whole fucking hour until I have to take you out. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey folks.
And we are back as always to talk about some video games. It's been a long while since we've sat down with all three of us.
Yeah.
We must have had a little stockpile going of some episodes for a minute, and then John and I for the last session got a little duo episode in. But yeah, it's been feels like well over a month since we've all sat down and talked some games together. So looking forward to digging into some stuff here. But yeah, I don't know, anything before we get rolling into some goodies here, guys?
Nah, got nothing to add.
Nice. Well, yeah, I just got back home a couple days ago from a trip to Chicago for our buddy Mikey's wedding. Mikey being the drummer of our band that John and I play in. We've mentioned him a number of times on the podcast, either, talking about various games or whatever. But for the first couple nights that I was in Chicago, I stayed with our buddy DJ from the early days of the podcast. Yeah. We played, we actually didn't play too many games, to be honest. He had like a bunch of stuff queued up. And I will actually say I watched him play a little bit of Fortnite. I was actually kind of thinking, man, this looks kind of fun. He was playing like the no building mode. And he was playing he was on a team with one of his friends, his buddy Adam, and they were playing together. So I was like, kind of the cooperativeness of it, and then just the two of them. Like, I don't know, it just seemed kind of fun. I actually downloaded it on my Switch too. I haven't played it at all yet, but I texted him. I was like, hey man, if you feel like playing it all anytime, let me know. But I'm just kind of curious to check it out. At this point, after watching it in action, I was like, this actually looks kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie.
That's great.
But nonetheless, into one of the games that we did dig into, he was just kind of like scrolling around. We kind of just do this every time we hang out at either his place or my place. We just kind of like show each other our list of games on our console. Well, John, we do this too.
Yep.
And just be like, oh, have you played this? Or I'll be like, oh, I didn't know you had that. And he was scrolling through. He had a few like multiplayer games installed, but I was like, oh, I didn't know you had Animal Well. He's like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool. He's like, I think you'd like this. So I can't remember if he had that one installed or not, but either way, he either reinstalled it or had it ready to go. And this is the game that was, I think, the first game that was published by Big Mode, which was the publishing arm or whatever you want to call it from Video Game Donkey. And then they've published one other game now on Switch, at least, Star of Providence. But this is a game that I believe had already kind of like a little bit of a following before it got picked up by them to be published. And the developer had been posting, footage online and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people were already looking forward to this game. And it's one that catches your eye right away. It's just got this like really kind of simple pixel art style with like, at least by default, it has like a soft like CRT filter on, which you can turn off. But I did for a quick second, was like, you know what? I normally don't love those, but this one just looks really, really nice. And it just adds a little bit of like, obviously texture, but it adds like a little bit of like just some kind of quality to the world that you're in.
That's cool.
And it's one of those games. So this is like one giant world map, best I can tell. I probably played like in 45 minutes to an hour of this. Again, I wasn't trying to play too much because I played enough to where I was like, actually, to be honest, within like the first 5 to 10 minutes, I was like, this game's awesome and I'm definitely going to buy this game. And I kept saying, like, I'm going to just stop, like, at any point now, like, next time I hit, like, a checkpoint, because, like, I know I'm going to buy this and I don't want to spoil anything, but it just kept compelling me to be like, ooh, what's that? Oh, what's that? And, like, I just kept, like, you know, poking and prodding my way forward. And it's like, best I can tell, it's like a Metroidvania in the sense that it's like one giant interconnected map. But it's definitely more puzzle driven. There's like kind of combat, sort of, but not really. Like, you don't have like a weapon really. You do get, like, at least early on, you got these firecrackers that you can like throw and it'll kind of scare certain enemies away. And it's like a puzzle platformer Metroidvania, and it's one of those games where the screen kind of moves one screen at a time, almost like Zelda.
I like
but
that.
in side-scrolling form, but like it's not scrolling with you as you move. It's like when you get to the edge of the screen, it goes to the next screen. So there's like a ton of little hidden secrets, like either at the top of the map or below the map. You'll see like a little crevice that you can get into, and all sorts of little, like, you know, a lot of the early on, the puzzles are just like you'll get to a room and there's 3 to 5 yellow switches, and you got to hit them all to open, you know, the gate to make, you know, progress to the next area. And then beyond like the firecrackers that you can pick up off the ground, they're kind of just like flowers that you can pick up as you progress through the levels or whatever. I eventually got a yo-yo as like a, I guess, kind of like a weapon, but not really. But you would get to these areas where like it would be like a platform that's like one of those thin platforms that like, in this case, like in some games, it'd be like a platform that you can like hold down and jump through. In this game, I don't think you could do that, but it's like, it's not as thick as like a normal just like layer of ground. So it's like I can clearly tell like I can do something with this. So you can like throw your yo-yo through that, and it's like real, like it's kind of got like a little bit of like a realistic physicsness to it, or physicsiness. I don't know how to say that. But it's the physics are somewhat realistic, but they're like real exaggerated as well. So it'll like kind of bounce and spring all over the place. So you can like kind of like cheese it and like throw it through a little tunnel, and it's got a pretty long string to it as well. And you can kind of like hold it down and let it like snake its way through a little crevice so that it'll hit one of those switches that you otherwise don't have any means of getting over to. But it's just got like such like a like little bit of like a slightly creepy vibe to it, in the sense that like I don't want to say it's like scary, but you'll just be like going along your merry way, and then all of a sudden like something will pop out of the background and just be like, oh shit, what was that? And sometimes it'll attack you and kill you, sometimes it won't. It'll just be like a thing that's just like, you know, luring you to the next area, like an animal will, you know, jump out from behind a bush and run a scamper away, and it's like, oh well, maybe I should go check out where that thing's going. But I don't know, the apart from like the visual presentation, it's got this like again, like kind of minimalist pixel art 8-bit style, with like everything's almost like just like an outline of it's kind of like a black background. It's more to it than that, but I don't know how to explain it, but it's like just kind of like the outline of the shape, and a lot of things aren't necessarily shaded in all the time. And you just play as this little like blob, like jelly character. Like there was one great section where there's this like giant like bird, like flamingo-esque creature that like I'm running away from, and I found this little like hole in the ground underneath, and I thought I'd like, oh nice, I escaped, and then I saw some switches down there. Oh nice, this is how I'm gonna get out of this room. And then all of a sudden the flamingo head like pokes down through the ground and just starts like snaking its way like underneath and chasing me. And like eventually if you get all the way to where the switch is, you're like just far enough to where it's like neck can't reach you, but it's like just like snapping its beak at you for a few seconds, and like you're just like holy shit, and then it'll, you know, let up for a second and you'll think you're in the clear, and then it's right back at it, and it's pretty tense in like with relatively low stakes. Although if you're not smart about going back to the save points after you make some progress, you can, you know, die and just be like, oh shit, I got to do all that over again. But yeah, just some really clever puzzles right off the bat. And I almost forgot to mention, I started to say it and then I brought up the visuals, but the sound design is just, it's like unreal. Every single sound effect was just so cool, and it's really all the sounds, like when you're going through like the grass or something, it's like a really realistic sound effect. And it's with that being like juxtaposed with like the really simplistic, like primitive visuals, like really nice but primitive, simplistic 8-bit pixel art visuals.
I like the visuals a lot from the screens I'm looking at. It almost kind of reminds me of like a retro side-scrolly PC game, maybe even sort of.
Yeah. It feels like almost like a ZX Spectrum or something with like the colors at least.
Yeah, it's
ZX Spectrum. If
it's
you will.
cool, and they make the most of the moodiness, at least from screenshots that I'm seeing.
Yeah. And at best I know, the game, I don't know if every element, including like music and sound design, but I think it was all made by like one person, at least the game itself, and the artwork and stuff like that. So kind of crazy. There's actually like, I think you can buy like an art book, like a giant, maybe it's not available anymore, but like there's like a hardbound, like 100-page art book or something online you can buy. But just a really cool game, and just like nice little, like the save points are like little like old school, like I don't know if they're rotary phones, but they're like the type of phones you can like hang up on the hook, and they're like bright yellow, so they really like stand out. But just every little sound effect, even when you save at those phones, or even when you just click over on a menu selection, it just sounds, everything in the game just has such a satisfying sound. And I will say, we were playing it on PS5, and I will say I really love that PS5 controller. It just feels really nice, and at least with the size of my hand and like the little touchpad on there for various games that you can potentially utilize that for. It was just a really nice experience playing that on the PS5.
Nice. You use the D-pad controller, or were you still using the analog stick on that?
I was kind of flipping back and forth, to be honest. I don't know why, but there were certain sections I would just feel like, oh, this is like a little tighter. I just want to like tap and inch my way to the edge of this platform before I get to the spikes. Like I'd switch to the D-pad, and then if I was just kind of cruising around in a more open section, I would find myself, I think, using the joystick. But I actually don't even know 100% for sure.
It's fair.
But I know I at least use the D-pad a little, because it's got like a nice soft touch to it, even though it's got that kind of weird split, button like they do on the PlayStation controllers.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's got me really pumped. I think there's a physical edition that's coming out pretty soon, so I'm pretty tempted to scoop up one of wait for that and scoop up one of those.
The developer shared memories out of Chicago. I was just looking. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm gonna have to do a little more digging. Yeah. But then the other game I just wanted to mention very briefly that I played before I left for this trip, and it'll just kind of lead into what Randall's been playing a little bit of. But I played a little Chibi-Robo on the Gamecube, or rather I played it on the Nintendo Switch 2 via the Switch Online expansion pass. They started out with, I think, the 4 games off the bat. They've since added Super Mario Strikers, which I couldn't be happier about, of course. I've only played it for like a quick second. But it definitely felt, I was just like, okay, this game, I'm not wrong. This game is better than the 2 newer ones for sure. I'm not crazy. It's not just maybe there is still a dose of nostalgia in there, but it's not just me being like, putting the game up on this like pedestal that it doesn't deserve.
It's a beautiful game.
But then it's got the widescreen. It really actually looks nice.
Yeah.
And then they added, since then, the newest one is Chibi-Robo. And this is a game that, to the best of my knowledge, I remember playing all the way through, or at least playing a lot of it on the GameCube back in the day. But I will say, playing it here, I don't remember a ton of it. But it is like jam-packed with charm, like right off the bat. Like the opening cutscenes are just like so goofy and silly. And this is like a first-party Nintendo game. Where you play as this like little robot that this family, I think, purchases, if I recall correctly, in like the opening cutscene. I think the dad's like giving it to the family, and they're all like, "Why'd you spend so much money on this?" or whatever. It's like, I think he's like giving it to his daughter as a gift or something for her birthday, or something to that effect. And then like the little Chibi-Robo, walks out, and it's one of those games where it's kind of like I've mentioned a while back an indie game, Tinykin, or even like Pikmin, but any of those games where you're like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids style. In this game, it really reminds me of that, because you're like,
there's all kinds of games that are kind of fit
Toy Commander on Dreamcast. But yeah, any of those games where you play as like, a really small, like toy-sized object or whatever inside of a house.
Yeah.
Or in any environment, but in this case, you are playing inside of a house, and you just kind of roam around. It obviously takes a little bit to, traverse the different, areas of at least the living room and the couple different areas that I've seen so far. But it's just got so many cool little touches where, like, you got to pick up your character has like a little like outlet or plug that's like, or I'm sorry, not outlet, but plug that's like dangling, power supply that's, trailing behind you like a tail. And then you have to, like, to save the game, you have to, like, pick that up, and your battery is constantly draining as well. So you also have to just refill your battery. So you have to, like, pick that up and plug it into a wall socket to save the game and also refill your health to the max or whatever your, battery level's at. But that said, I am probably not going to see, too much more of this game just because it's, like, so long-winded. It's, like, so sluggish and so slow-paced, and like you can't skip any of the cutscenes. Sure. You can't. It just seems to like really take its time, and the gameplay is pretty slow on top of that as well. And being that I know I've played it before, I'm just not overly compelled to keep going. Even though I can't say I'm remembering all that much of it. But like right off the bat, I have like one little ability where you can like put a few different like hats or power ups on, so I can like pull out a toothbrush and like clean up. You're basically just trying to like help the family out at their house and earn these happiness points. So like, for example, there'll be like a bunch of dog like mud paw prints on the ground, and you can take out your little toothbrush and scrub them out, and you get a few points for that. And then the other thing you can do, which is that you don't get any points for doing this, but you can get like your little helicopter hat out, so you can like glide over a little gap that you wouldn't have been able to cross before. So there's a bunch of different, like, quote unquote power-ups and abilities and stuff like that. And it's definitely like really charming, really silly, really like funny. And if I had like, maybe if I was like playing it with my nephew or something like that, I could maybe get into it. If he was like laughing and having a good time with it or something like that. But yeah, like I said, being that I played it before, I don't see myself going, that much further into it. But it's definitely a cool game, and cool that they added it to the library, because it is just like kind of like a very unique one-off game from Nintendo that they don't really make games like this anymore. Nintendo, also, at least,
Yeah, no, they don't, and it's an extremely difficult game to get a hold of on Gamecube. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, so it's much more readily available to play it this way digitally.
Yeah, and it looks nice. It's just it's cool to have on there, and it's cool to see that they're like digging into a little deeper into the library for even some of the early games that they're adding to the Switch Online service.
Oh yeah, there's some stuff to draw from. Yeah, I'm glad that they're kind of reaching from into different pockets there with stuff like Strikers and this.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, why don't I kick it over to you, Randall, for a little bit of the some stuff in the same realm.
They don't got this one yet.
Yeah, which I'm kind of surprised. I would have thought this would have maybe been one of like the first ones they had on there.
Well,
make it a launch title.
It's because the business folks knew that this was already remade for 3DS, and in their mind, that
was it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, right? I think
so.
I think they put this out on 3DS. It's kind of like,
I thought they remade the Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon.
Dark Moon came out on 3DS.
Switch.
They leveraged the engine for that afterwards for a port of a remake of the first Luigi's Mansion.
Interesting, because then they did the same thing, I think, with Luigi's Mansion 3, because they put Luigi's Mansion 2 on Switch, and I think the Luigi's Mansion 3 engine. That's hilarious.
Yes.
Okay, that's why I was confused there.
Yep. No, and it's fair, because I that was still in an era where I was buying most everything that came out on 3DS physically that was Nintendo, and I didn't grab that either. I stuck with the original Luigi's Mansion on GameCube. So we were talking before we started that I briefly talked about playing Luigi's Mansion on GameCube in a previous episode. Unfortunately, I did not listen back to said episode, so I don't remember what I said. So watch me repeat myself. But I'm playing through this. Well, I did play through this. I've completed it. Luigi's Mansion for GameCube has been completed.
Nicely done.
Thank you. it before I got a chance to see my potential playtime, I'll say it like goes into a weird new game thing, and I wasn't sure if it was going to replace my save or not, and it did. So I don't have an exact playtime. I'm pretty sure ballpark was in 7 hours or so, somewhere in there, like probably.
Nice.
So pretty healthy, pretty good playtime for something like this, but this was a fun experience to play, and it was really fun to play with my then 6-year-old daughter. She mostly watched, but sometimes she'd even pick up the controls like, oh, I want to move like Luigi. I know where we need to go. We need to go down like this hallway, and you turn right here. You can't go in this door because it's still locked, but like we can go over here and talk to this kind of friendly ghost, and that'll help us, get the next MacGuffin to go to the next area sort of thing. And it's a lot of back and forth with that, and I'm sure there's some people that don't like the what amounts to backtracking, as it were, but it's all contained within this mansion and the area around outside of it, the yard around the mansion, and then the different floors of the mansion and the rooms within those floors. And it's really nicely designed. They kind of stick to some conceits where there's some doors that never open, down a hallway. So you kind of have to go the long way around to get, between different floors sometimes. But it's once you understand that pattern and you start getting, I wouldn't even say power-ups. There's not really power-ups in the first Luigi's Mansion, as it were. There's different. The only power-up you get with your Poltergust 3000 is the ability to use fire, water, or ice elements in attacking certain types of ghosts. Okay. And that, they kind of introduce some of those, I'd say, more like halfway through the playthrough.
I was going to say, I don't think I ever got to any of that.
Yeah, for a good long while, you're just using your flashlight to kind of spook the ghosts, as it were, to flash a flash on their heart inside of their ghost body, and that freezes them for a second, and then you flip over to push down your R trigger with the analog, and it's a nice little showcase of the feel of that, and then you kind of are sucking against the ghost, and it's kind of like a tug of war that's happening at that point with a ghost for however many points. What's that?
A fishing mini game.
It kind of is.
Yeah, that's a good comparison too.
It really
both
is.
Of those, yeah,
it is a fishing mini game, and it feels good. It's like the back and forth pull of it, and you've of course got the rumble and the GameCube controllers too. They did a good job, and like some of the bigger ghosts especially are kind of pulling you around, and they might be dropping small things like poison mushrooms or whatever, which will break your hold and like knock some of your health down. There's that sort of stuff, or sometimes environmental things, like there might be fire on the floor or whatever, that you're kind of trying to like, almost like you're being pulled by a boat skiing or something, would be another way of kind of an analogy of that feeling.
Yeah.
That's kind of the battle with the ghost, and you're pulling against it your way to try and like, you're pulling it in your fishing way, reeling that ghost fish in as it reduces its points down to, 0, so that you can catch it and, effectively clear that room of ghosts, which sometimes opens up a treasure chest that appears, and that might have a key in it for another door, or diamonds or things like that, which, best to my knowledge, seems like the diamonds are nice and Luigi gets very excited, but they just add to like a money points total at the end of the level / chapter / game. I don't know that it effectively opens too much up, but
okay,
it's fine. There's plenty of like little diorama secrets too, where you could practically use your vacuum powers on anything you see, and just see if it's interactable. And most of the time it is, to some degree. And that's just like I don't know. It's just fun to have that level of interactivity in the game environment that way. I'd say, like, even if it's a room free of ghosts, just to see. And like, you see like, oh, there's over here, there's a credenza with the drawer closed. Like, let me go up and use just the regular action button to open that drawer up, and there's a bunch of like cash that's now flying out of there. And I could run around and grab it, or I could use my vacuum and start just going nuts. And it just feels good, right?
Or you can like take the vacuum and like suck the like drapes off the windows or something like that. Like it almost has like I think we probably said this before when you brought it up, but because I've always thought this anyways, so I feel like I probably brought this up, but like has a little bit of like a point and click adventure feel to
it. Does
in that way. Like you're just clicking on everything in the room to see like, what does that do? What if I take the vacuum to the phone? What's that going to do? Is it going to pull it off the hook? Is it going to dial a number and spin the rotary dial? Like it's just really cool to like experiment in that way, and like a more safe environment where you're like not gonna like, okay, I'm gonna lose hours of progress if this ghost gets me. It's just like, okay, I'll just pick up where I left off if I died.
or in like it's not so obtuse like a lot of point and click adventure games are, that might, where I'm having to type in some exact answer or select from something that I would have never guessed, to interact with those systems, which is why I never really got into many point and click adventures, even though I could see why people do. Wasn't never my thing. I love
the presentation of that and everything, but it's just like, when you hear like one of the most famous ones that I forget what game it's in, but like there's like some broken like thing that you have to fix with like you don't know how to fix it, and you're looking at everything in your inventory, and you have to take the monkey out of your inventory because it's a monkey wrench, and you can like tighten some bolt or something. And it's like, who the hell would think of this? Like, come on.
Oh boy.
Not to mention that some of those games would literally have like, if you did something, it would like break the game or not break the game, but it would be unwinnable.
Yes.
But it would not let you know that it was
Old
unwinnable.
PC games
so you're just
love
like
that
poking
stuff.
around. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
That's brutal. That was for kids
so glad I didn't game in that era. Yeah,
those kids had 3 games, so they didn't mind, having 10 hours set on fire. But a little tough these days. Yeah.
Memorization in a much different way than like a precision platformer.
Yes.
Just brutal rote memorization. Yeah, in this very specific sequence. That's what those games were in large part. A lot of charm in those games, but still,
for sure.
There's a lot of charm here too. A lot of charm. Luigi's always like humming the themes, which is so cute.
I forgot about that.
He's like talking to himself, and he gets so scared, and he's got to save his brother, and it's really sweet. And Fiona really likes to see like, oh, there's this one place where you can peer in and see Mario, and he's stuck in the glass mirror or whatever, and that's just a very fun, spooky thing. There's King Boo, and he's kind of scary cute, and it's good stuff. Definitely feel bad for not having bought this at GameCube launch, at that Target, despite the whatever IGN reviews or EGM maybe even that was giving it some like 4.0 out of 10 shit. It's like it was just getting trashed by some places for I think not being a Mario game at that time, sort of thing.
Yeah,
basically.
not what people expected at least.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's good. I really enjoyed my time with the first Luigi's Mansion as just an encapsulated experience. And I was someone that played probably at least half of Dark Moon, the second game on 3DS. I played a lot of that game before I even launched this one, just back when Dark Moon had come out. So I still was familiar with the concept, just for whatever reason, hadn't played it until now. And really, really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that series still, like, I don't know who knows if they'll make another one, but it's cool to see that they've made 3 games within that series already. Yeah. Not to mention the remakes on 3DS and then Switch. But
and 3 different games to that effect. Like the level-based gameplay of 2 versus like the very, I don't know, like intricate open world of 3. Like, I've always wanted to play 1. 1 is the one that I haven't played at all, and like
I think you'd really be into it.
Yeah, it's like I love the idea of it being kind of a smaller. Like as soon as you said like 7 hours, I was like, oh, that's the perfect size.
That's all you have to say is 7 to 8 hours, and you're speaking my language.
And like you're not allergic to the backtracking, John, given all of your Metroidvania experience and the like. I think you would really latch onto it in particular, John. Yeah.
It's definitely cool. Yeah. I would guess at the most I got like a quarter into the game, but I definitely remember it being pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. It looks nice too for being a launch game on GameCube for that matter. Yeah, I definitely recommend people check it out. I don't know what they changed in that 3DS remake, but if that's the way you have to play it, it's good.
Yeah. Although like I think you mentioned the like triggers on that GameCube controller, that our trigger for the suction on the vacuum has got to feel great.
Yes. Yes. And there's no, like, even though, it's in a 3D space, there's no need to kind of dual stick it at all, which is, I think, pretty novel that way too. So, yeah, it's good.
Nice.
It's very
That's one that I'll definitely, if they add that, not that I don't own it on, I think I own it on GameCube. Actually, now that I mention it, I might have had the player's choice version and gotten rid of it at some point, being like, I'm going to get the black label. But if they add that to Switch too, the GameCube Online, that's one I'd love to see as well. Like just with the not enhanced visuals, but just see it in the, running through the HDMI and all that.
Oh yeah, I think it would look pretty clean. I'm sure they will at some point, considering they have to know that a lot of people don't have 3DSs or functional 3DSs anyway.
Exactly. But I don't know, anything more to add on to that before we kick it over to John here to wrap us up, Randall?
No, GameCube's good. That's all I got.
Yeah, I want to get mine all hooked up again, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a fun time.
All right, well, why don't you close us out here, John?
So, in the Discord, I think I referred to these as a somewhat coherent group of games, but the more that I think about it, it was more of just I started playing one game, and then as I was playing it, I was like, you know what, this kind of reminds me of another, and then I just kept doing that until I got further and further from the original game. So I'm going to talk about a small group of games that somehow reminded me of each other. I started with Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, which I had purchased at some point and was a Townbuilder Metroidvania game where you are this character who comes to this town that a disaster has befallen, and you are making your way through dungeons and finding resources and battling enemies and slowly rebuilding the town. And there are, small quests that happen. And for whatever reason, it reminded me of Moonlighter, a more of a merchant dungeon crawler Zelda-esque game that we've talked about on this podcast, I think, before. And I had originally played that on Switch and then picked up again on Steam Deck. And somehow between the two of those games, that made me think a lot of other games that I had picked up over the years, including Reciteer, which is much closer to Moonlighter than Moonlighter is to Eiyuden Chronicles. And it almost seems like Moonlighter is more of another pass at the gameplay of Reciteer, which is, I think, a PS2 era game, if memory serves.
Okay.
But that one is very much just a, dungeon crawler, items selling simulator, where in the game itself you are the proprietor of an item shop for JRPG characters, and you are selling weapons to people who go on these JRPG quests. And so the main meat of the gameplay is playing an inventory systems of all right, you got to get these weapons, and these weapons will be sold at different times to different characters, and you're trying to make sure that you're getting the right price that people will buy them at, and you're not pricing them too high, which is what Moonlighter does. But I think Moonlighter has a much stronger emphasis on the dungeon aspect of it, turning it into a roguelike thing where you're doing daily runs and, you know, trying to make sure that you're getting as much of the loot back to your place so that you can craft new items and sell them for higher prices and whatnot. And it's a little bit more streamlined than Recettear, which is of an era that is a lot more of just item descriptions and menus. And it's really interesting, especially nowadays, to play a game like Recettear, which, as I was talking to my friend, you know, from high school, where I had first heard of this game, he pointed out to me that this game was translated by a group of people from the Something Awful forums. So it also has a very specific like tone in its translation, which is just of a time of early 2000s internet that like it's an interesting time capsule, if anything else.
Yep.
And then this somehow also spun out into me playing Merchant 64, which is a more recent in the era of, you know, 64 PSX era graphics. And it's another merchant type game where you are getting items and you're selling them, but it's a much more simple, like, just that is bare bones, and that is what you do. You buy low and you sell high, and like there's not much else to it. So it's interesting to see these types of games kind of have a genre that more often than not is an excuse, I think, to like go out into other genres. Like, I think Recettear has its dungeon crawling thing, but it is mostly like the merchant side of it is the main core of the gameplay, where Moonlighter is, I think, the inverse of that, where there's absolutely, you know, the mini game of selling items in real time every day, and like the I don't know, the main part of that gameplay is definitely like the roguelike runs. And then Eiyuden Chronicles or Chronicle Rising, I don't know, it seems to be more evenly paced throughout those things, where every quest is kind of an excuse for you to go into a different area and get the items of this dungeon, but it has a hard cap on your inventory. So even if you are on a tear, like on a particular dungeon dive, you aren't necessarily, you know, going as far out as you possibly can because your pack is full and you need to return back to town to deposit all the items that you had in order. And then while you're there, you might as well, like, you know, upgrade your character's armor or weapons, or rebuild another building, which unlocks more quests and stuff. So there isn't really a through line between all of these games, but for whatever reason, I was playing one, and then as I was in the middle of one, I would be thinking, it's like, you know, I've never actually played Recettear. Like, I've owned this game for years, and I've heard things about it, and it was a lot of, like, simultaneous itches being scratched in different ways, and like none of them were exactly enough to like hold my attention, but it was kind of fun to bounce like through each of them into each other and kind of see how they're different approaches to like somewhat similar themes. And I don't know, it was fun to do, even though none of them were particularly like, oh, I gotta like devote all my attention to Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. It was more of like, I'm going to play this for a little bit, and then when I get bored, I'll move over to Moonlighter, do a few runs, and then when I get bored with that, move on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. You squeezing the juice. That's fine. That's all you need to get out of those. And also, Merchant 64's aesthetic, it just screams Goemon 64 to me. It
really does.
Oh, yeah, it really does. It's really charming. It's got some nice things about like you unlock certain abilities. I think fast travel, you need to make a certain amount of money before you can actually unlock fast travel. Otherwise, you have like a like set amount of inventory that you have, and you are carrying that, so that takes an entire day to move from one city to the next, and you have to sleep out on the street and at the end of the day, and you might just lose a portion of your inventory or money due to like it being stolen because you had to sleep on the street. So there is a little bit of management, and then you can also sleep in the inn, but you have to pay for that, but that will protect your inventory. So it's a good idea, but like I didn't feel like there was a whole lot more to it other than I was like, yep, I got what you were doing and you did it well. Like that's all. Sometimes that's all you need to do. You get a good hook and you execute it, and that's all there is to it.
And now I'm happy to own it, and I can boot it up whenever I'd like in the future. But I've got my fix in this interim
my little
period,
just to be like, oh, what a cool idea, or what a cool like presentation or whatever, and then just move on to the next thing to see what else is out there.
Yeah, which I really appreciate, especially you get that a ton more in the indie space where it's all right. Here is just like, we had a clever idea and we had a nice presentation of that idea, and here you go. It's like kind of the equivalent of like a hardcore song that's a minute and 30 seconds long. It was like, hell yeah, you did it.
Yeah, just cut to the chase.
So that's the max. Moving on.
Yup.
Yeah, good deal. Yeah, it's got me excited I kind of like forgot how much I was hooked on Moonlighter, and then watched you play a little bit of that along with some of these other games. And then I didn't realize up until recently that Moonlighter 2 was coming out. Yeah, I think you had mentioned Moonlighter. I looked it up, and then I was like, oh, there's another Moonlighter in development. It looks similar, but it's definitely got a different style. So I'm kind of excited to both dive back into Moonlighter and maybe check out that DLC, because you had whatever version you got on Steam had like the bundle or whatever. Because I saw had like the little subtitle on the title screen, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, and I'd be really interested to see what a sequel does, like, what parts they expand upon and which parts, like, I don't know, they maybe move their focus on, and I think that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, or even if they just honestly do like a Rogue Legacy 2 kind of thing and just basically, hey, let's make the first game essentially obsolete almost, not obsolete, but in a way, it's like this is just a better version of that game in almost every conceivable way.
First game is proof of concept, foundationally.
Yeah. Big fan of iterating on an idea.
Me too.
Yeah, and you don't see that too much in the indie space. It's time to like move on to the next thing. You don't really get to see too many games like actually see a sequel.
Yeah, we're getting more of them now, and I'm
I was just thinking the Hades 2, a few others. Yeah, some
Silk
of the bigger
Song,
ones.
Yeah, we got
good call.
A bunch of sequels of like good, solid indie series that I'm very excited to see more of that.
Me too.
Yeah, let's keep them coming, because it means number one, the studio's still kicking and doing well, and you're presumably doing well, and then it means there's obviously a demand for a follow-up. So definitely would love to see more of that. But I don't know, anything else before we throw in the towel for this week, guys?
No, I'm good.
Nope.
Good deal. Well, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com, or just look up Pursuing Pixels, and you can find us in a ton of other places. And otherwise, until next week, we will catch you then, and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I got my dumb phone. That's a thing that happened. I haven't activated it yet, but I'm...
What'd you get?
It's a Light Phone 3.
Which is, what's the deal with it?
The deal is it doesn't have apps. It just does call in, text in. It does have maps, and it does do. You can listen to music or podcasts that you put on the thing. But otherwise, it is a distraction-free device, and this is what I need in my life. And then otherwise, I can supplement with an iPad or a personal computer.
Correct. Heck yeah, man! That actually sounds nice.
Yeah, I just like can't stop compulsively looking at the bad news machine. So it's just something's gotta give.
Nope. Yeah, that's the right move, man.
Yeah.
And honestly, even if it's not like the bad news stuff, like even when it's like just apps and you're just
notifications,
like, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, oh, let me pull out my phone to check what time it is.
Yes.
And then I'm like, boom, 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 doing 20 different things.
Yes.
And then I put my phone away, and then I'm like, wait, what the fuck time is it? Like, It's like ridiculous.
Yep.
The worst thing for me is like the YouTube shorts. Like I'll click on one random thing and then I just keep watching. Like I'm like, oh, what's this? Because I'll click on like a drum thing or something or some music thing, and then I'm like, oh, that was kind of whatever. And then I'll just keep like, I don't know, I just keep scrolling forever, just sitting there.
That's how it's designed.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So say I still want to be informed, but I want to do it in a efficient batch of time when I am ready for that, not it invading my life every 5 minutes. Please.
RSS feeds.
That's
very good call.
That is a great. Yeah, that might be the method, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just gonna rewind everything back
for real.
But legitimately, like we had the internet where it should have been.
We did.
And we just made it so much worse.
All we needed was message boards and an AIM, and we were good, and email. That was all we really needed for the internet.
God. Yeah.